I stood in the freezing rain, my 2-year-old daughter, Ava, trembling in my arms. The front door of the house I once called home slammed shut in my face. My husband's voice, no, my ex-husband's voice, still echoed in my ears. "Get out, Juliet. Take your brat and leave. I don't need you anymore." I stared at the massive house, the one we built together, the one where we made promises, where we dreamed of growing old. Now, I was standing outside like an unwanted stranger, while inside, another woman, his new love, his prize for winning the lottery, was probably laughing, sipping wine, and waiting for him in our bed. My entire world had been ripped away from me in an instant. And he thought I would just disappear quietly? Oh no. He had no idea who he had just betrayed. My name is Juliet Hollister. I'm 28 years old, and this is the story of how the man I loved won $8 million, threw me and our daughter away like trash for a younger woman, and how I made sure he lost everything. I met Damian Hollister when I was 22. He was charming, ambitious, and utterly broke. But I didn't care. I was madly in love. I worked double shifts as a waitress while he jumped from one business idea to another, dreaming of success. I supported him through it all. His failures, his debts, his reckless spending habits. When we found out I was pregnant, I was terrified. But he held me close and promised, "We'll figure it out together." And we did. Or so I thought. For 6 years, we struggled but survived. He worked as a mechanic while I took online courses at night, dreaming of a better future for Ava. We had no luxuries, but we had love. Or at least I did. Then one day, Damian bought a lottery ticket. Just for fun, he said. And against all odds, he won. $8 million. It was supposed to change our lives for the better. Instead, it changed him. At first, it was subtle. New clothes, fancy cologne, expensive whiskey that we never used to buy. Then suddenly, he stopped coming home early. His phone was always hidden. His eyes glazed over when I spoke. And then I found the receipts. Hotel rooms, jewelry, lingerie that I never wore. Another woman. My heart shattered, but I still wanted to believe that maybe, just maybe, it was a mistake. So I confronted him, expecting guilt, regret, some kind of explanation. Instead, he laughed. "You really thought I'd stay with you forever, Juliet? You're a nobody. I was stuck with you because I had no other choice. But now I have options." Options. That's what I was to him. A last resort. Then came the final blow. "I want a divorce. You and Ava can pack your bags today. I'm done playing the family man." Just like that, my world ended. He didn't just leave us. He threw us out. I begged him, not for me, but for Ava, our daughter, the little girl who loved him more than anything in this world. But he just smirked. "I'll send child support. You'll survive." I wasn't sure what hurt more, his betrayal or the way he made me feel like I was worth nothing. So I walked away, humiliated, heartbroken, clutching Ava to my chest. But as I stood in the rain, something inside me snapped. No, I would not cry. I would not break. Damian Hollister thought he could erase me like a mistake? Thought he could throw us out like garbage? He had no idea what was coming. I didn't have time to grieve. I had to be strong. For Ava, for myself, for the woman I was about to become. That night, I slept in a cheap motel, staring at the cracked ceiling as Ava curled up next to me. My body ached, my heart was raw, but my mind was on fire. Damian thought he could destroy me. He thought I'd disappear, broken and pathetic, while he rolled in luxury with his new plaything. No, he forgot who I was. He forgot that I had spent years scraping by, solving problems, outsmarting bills, hustling to survive while he jumped from one stupid dream to another. He was the dreamer. I was the survivor. And now? I was about to become his worst nightmare. The first step was information. Damien had kicked me out of our home, but he wasn't exactly discreet with his affair. He had flaunted his new woman around town, Sienna Calloway, a 24-year-old social climber with a surgically enhanced body and an empty head. I knew the type. Gold digger. Opportunist. Just like him. But I wasn't interested in her. I wanted to know where Damien's money was going. So, I did something reckless. I called Xavier. Now, Xavier Russo wasn't a friend. Not exactly. He was a financial advisor, and a man who had once, a long time ago, been very, very interested in me. I had turned him down back then. I was married, loyal, blind to the fact that my husband was a snake. But Xavier? He was rich, ruthless, and had a very big weakness for unfinished business. So when I called him, his voice practically purred through the phone. Juliet Hollister, I never thought I'd hear from you again. I need information. Information comes at a price, darling. I'm willing to pay. Interesting, but I'm more interested in you. My stomach tightened. I knew what he wanted. Xavier was a dangerous game. The kind of man who never forgot a rejection, who enjoyed watching people crawl back. But I didn't crawl. I negotiated. The next evening, I met Xavier at a luxury rooftop bar. I walked in wearing a blood-red dress, one that hugged my curves and made every man in the room turn his head. I wasn't the same desperate wife Damien had thrown out. I was reborn. Xavier's eyes devoured me as I slid into the seat across from him. Now this is the Juliet I always wanted to see. Are you going to keep flirting or are you going to help me? Oh, sweetheart. Why not both? He smirked, taking a sip of his whiskey. I leaned forward, lowering my voice. I need to know everything about Damien's finances. His accounts, his investments, where the money is going. He's reckless. He doesn't know how to handle wealth. And I need proof. Xavier's smirk grew wider. Oh, Juliet, you're playing a very interesting game, and I love interesting games. The next day, I had everything. Damien had burned through nearly half his winnings in just 2 months. Luxury cars, a ridiculous mortgage on a mansion, jewelry for Sienna, bad investments in shady businesses, and the best part? He had barely paid his taxes. Oh, sweetheart. He was one step away from financial disaster. And I was about to push him over the edge. But I wasn't done yet. Damien needed to suffer. I wanted him to lose everything the way I had lost everything. So, I made one final call. This one wasn't to Xavier. It was to Sienna. Who is this? She asked, her voice smooth, bored, like she had better things to do. Someone who can tell you something very valuable. Silence, then curiosity. Hook, line, and sinker. I'm listening. Meet me for coffee, alone, and don't tell Damien. She hesitated. Why should I trust you? I laughed, the kind of laugh that makes people nervous. Because, darling, I'm about to make you richer than you ever dreamed. And him, he's about to lose everything. Sienna Calloway sat across from me in a high-end cafe, her perfectly manicured nails tapping against the table. She was beautiful, young, and clueless. Exactly the type of woman Damien would fall for. She crossed her arms. You said you had something valuable to tell me. I took a slow sip of my coffee, letting the silence stretch just enough to make her uneasy. How much do you think Damien is really worth? I asked. She blinked. 8 million. More now with investments. I smirked. Wrong. Her eyes narrowed. He's almost broke. Her posture shifted ever so slightly. The casual arrogance slipped, replaced by uncertainty. You're lying. I leaned forward. Did he buy you those diamond earrings? Yes. Did he mention that he put them on his credit card? A card that's already maxed out? Her face paled. That mansion he moved you into? The one you love so much? It's in foreclosure. And the cars? Leased. Every single one. He doesn't even own them. And taxes? Oh, sweetheart. I smiled coldly. The IRS is going to eat him alive. She swallowed hard. No, he said he had investments. Bad ones. Shady ones. The kind that don't pay back. Her breathing turned shallow. I tilted my head, watching the realization sink in. She had traded her youth, her body, her time for a sinking ship. You're lying, she repeated, but this time she didn't sound convinced. I slid my phone across the table. See for yourself. She hesitated before grabbing it, her eyes scanning the financial reports Xavier had given me. Proof of every stupid decision Damien had made. She was silent for a long time. Then her fingers clenched around the phone. That's stupid. She caught herself, inhaling sharply. He lied to me. I shrugged. Of course he did. He lied to me too. You're just the newest fool in his collection. She looked up at me then, her blue eyes burning with something I recognized too well. Rage, hurt, the craving for revenge. Good. So what do you want from me? She asked. I leaned in, dropping my voice to a whisper. I want you to ruin him. She let out a sharp, bitter laugh. How? Simple. Bleed him dry. Take everything he has left before the IRS does. Make him suffer. And when he's got nothing left, drop him like a bad habit. Destroy him. She was silent, thinking, calculating. Then slowly she smirked. You know what? That sounds like fun. The plan was set in motion. Over the next few weeks, I watched Damien unravel. Sienna went on a spending spree. Luxury vacations, designer clothes, ridiculously expensive jewelry. She pushed Damien to burn through the last of his savings. And the best part? He had no idea she was doing it on purpose. Damien was too obsessed with keeping her happy, with proving that he could give her a life of luxury. He couldn't see that she was draining him. Then, right when his accounts hit rock bottom, she made her final move. She convinced him to sell the mansion. It's too big for just us, baby, she purred. Let's downsize. Something more intimate. Desperate to please her, Damien put it on the market. And guess who bought it? Me. Through Xavier, I purchased the house under an anonymous LLC, watching from the shadows as Damien signed the papers, completely unaware that he had just sold his home back to the woman he had thrown out. It was poetic, but I wasn't done yet. Not even close. The final blow came a week later. Sienna left him. Publicly. At an elite charity gala, right in front of his business associates and friends. She slapped him. Hard. The sound of it echoed through the ballroom. You're a fraud, Damien! A pathetic, broke liar! She screamed, crocodile tears running down her flawless cheeks. The room fell silent. Eyes widened. Whispers started. Damien paled. Sienna, baby, let's talk about this. Talk? She laughed, cold and cruel. There's nothing to talk about. You have no money left, no house, no investments. You're a loser. Damien was humiliated. His business connections started pulling away. The people who had been begging for his attention suddenly lost interest. And just when he thought it couldn't get worse, the IRS showed up. They had questions about his taxes. Damien was ruined. Broke, homeless, abandoned. Just like me. And it wasn't over yet. Not until I gave him the final delicious, soul-crushing blow. 2 days later, I made my grand entrance. I waited until he was truly desperate, sleeping in a motel, scrambling to find a way out of the hole he had dug. And then I showed up, dressed in pure white, glowing, victorious. When he saw me, his face twisted in confusion, in fear. "Juliet?" he croaked. I smiled. "Hello, Damien." He swallowed hard. What are you doing here?" I leaned in, just enough for him to catch the scent of victory on my skin. "I just wanted to see you one last time, before I move back into my house." His eyes widened. "What?" I laughed softly, letting the moment sink in. "Oh, Damien, didn't you hear? I bought the mansion. Our mansion. The one you threw me out of." He froze. His lips parted, but no sound came out. So I twisted the knife. "I guess you're the one without a home now." And then I walked away, leaving him standing there, shattered, destroyed, powerless. Exactly the way he had left me. But I wasn't quite done yet. There was still one last move. And this one would break him completely. I should have been satisfied. I had taken everything from Damien. His money, his home, his reputation, his trophy girl. He was drowning in humiliation, debt, and despair. But it still wasn't enough. Because Damien wasn't just any man who had hurt me. He was the man who had thrown out his own daughter like trash. And for that, he needed to suffer in a way he would never recover from. I made my final move 3 months later. By now, Damien was a ghost of his former self. Broke, jobless, rejected. No friends, no allies, just a man scrambling for survival. He had burned every bridge. So when he got a mysterious job offer, he jumped at it like a desperate fool. A private security firm was hiring, offering decent money, benefits, a way out of his misery. It was his last chance, and he had no idea that I was the one who set it up. On his first day, he walked into the firm, expecting a second chance. Instead, he walked into me, sitting at the CEO's desk. His jaw dropped. "You?" His voice cracked. I smiled, cold, wicked, victorious. "Oh, Damien, didn't you know? I own this company." He turned pale. I leaned back, watching the terror set in. "Surprised? You shouldn't be. See, while you were out there burning through millions, I was investing, growing, becoming unstoppable. And now?" I let my smirk widen. "Now I own the very last opportunity you had left." He tried to speak, to beg. "Juliet, please. I just need a chance." I held up a finger. "Shh. Let me talk now." I stood circling the desk slowly, watching him crumble. "You ruined me once, Damien. Took everything from me. Left me in the rain with our daughter while you chased after some plastic doll." His throat bobbed. "And you thought I'd just disappear? Crawl away like some pathetic ex-wife?" I let out a soft, dark laugh. "No, sweetheart. I spent every second plotting your downfall. And guess what?" I leaned in, my lips curling with pure delight. "I won." His breathing turned ragged. "Please, Juliet, I have nothing left. I'll do anything. Just..." I tilted my head, enjoying the sight of him breaking. "Anything?" He nodded desperately. Yes, anything. I let the silence stretch, watching hope flicker in his eyes. And then, I delivered the final kill shot. Then get on your knees. His face fell. What? Get on your knees. He hesitated, so I raised a brow. You said you'd do anything, right? Go ahead. Get down. Show me how much you regret ruining my life. His hands shook. His face burned with shame. But slowly he dropped. To his knees. Completely. Powerless. Beneath. Me. And God, it was beautiful. I could have let him rot there. I could have ended it with one final humiliation. But no, that would be too easy. Instead, I leaned in, my voice dripping with mercy. False mercy. You want a job, Damien? Fine. I'll give you one. His head snapped up, hope lighting his face. Really? Yes. I turned to my assistant and slid a contract across the table. Sign it. Right now. His hands shook as he grabbed a pen, barely reading before scribbling his name. And then, I delivered the final twist. Oh, by the way, you're not getting a corporate position. He frowned. What? I smiled. You're my new personal driver. His entire body went stiff. Excuse me? I leaned closer, voice soft as silk. You'll pick me up, drop me off, open my doors, carry my bags, and every day you'll watch me live the life you threw away. His lips parted in horror. You can't be serious. Oh, I'm very serious, darling. I stepped past him, pausing at the door. Your uniform is waiting in the break room. Hope you like it. Oh, and one more thing. I turned, watching him drown in shame. You're required to address me as ma'am. His face turned red with humiliation. His fists clenched. His pride shattered. And I simply smiled. See you bright and early, driver. And then I walked away. Victorious. Damien never escaped his humiliation. For the next 6 months, he was forced to be my driver, watching as I built an empire, raised our daughter in luxury, and became everything he could never be. People laughed at him, whispered behind his back. A man who once had it all, now reduced to opening doors for the woman he betrayed. And one day, he finally broke. He quit, vanished, disappeared into nothing. And I never looked back. Because while Damien faded into obscurity, I rose into power, success, and complete satisfaction. Revenge wasn't just sweet. It was everything.